Hello and welcome to Live at the Western Roofing Expo. We are here live with Coffee Conversations. I am so excited. We are here with our sponsors, Everroof and General Coatings. Will Lorenz, thank you so much.
Thank
you.
And
it makes it possible to bring Coffee Conversations and this important discussion live to everybody out there. So thank you. We're going to introduce our panel and we're going to get down to some great questions about the Western states and everything that's happening overall. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, Roofers Coffee Shop, and we're going to get started. So I'm going to start over here. Tim Hart, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tim Hart with Duralash Roofing, Vice President.
Vice President. Perfect. You know what, Tim? Just real quick, tell everybody, how long have you been with Duralast?
I've been with Duralast 40 years now.
40.
This is my 40th year.
And you're also an Oregonian.
Yep.
Yes, I know. So we always have to point that out just a little bit. So thank you for being here today. Will?
I'm Will Lorenz with General Coatings and Everroof. I've only been in the industry about 40 years, but only 10 years with General Coatings, and we're a manufacturer of spray foam and roof coatings, and just glad to be here.
Excellent, thank you. And Lee, I'm so excited to have you on the show. I just have to say it. So please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Lee Lipniskis. I own Lavello Construction. Been in the industry for about 15 years and then decided to start my own company earlier this year.
Yeah, we're so super excited about
too.
that.
Thank
yes,
you.
So excited. And for the few people out there who don't know who you are, Trent Cotney, could you introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Trent Cotney, Service General Counsel for Western States, and I'm also a partner at Adams & Reese.
Yeah. So, okay, first of all, I want to start out with just how the show is going, because I have to tell you, we're watching it here, and it is so crowded. There are so many people, both yesterday and now today. So, Tim, what are you seeing at the Duralast booth?
Our booth has been packed. You know what? We brought in probably a good 8 to 10 people to work it, and everybody has been busy. So this is one of the busiest shows that we've attended. And It's been exciting and it's been fun.
Yeah, and you and I are on the advisory council. It's going to be kind of fun going to that next board meeting and talking about that, isn't it? Yeah,
it will be.
They really knocked it out of the ballpark. Will, what are you seeing at Everroof and General Coatings?
We're seeing lots of people. We're seeing happy roofers that have been successful the last 2 years, thanks to efforts Trent and NRCA and keeping things going Western states. And lots of people coming, and good prognosis for the industry going forward.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but I just have to say, I keep hearing about roof restorations. Yeah, it's been a topic.
It is, and not every solution can be new, and sometimes you have to extend what you got, redo it, keep it going, and we think that's an excellent alternative. We got to give opportunities for roofers to do whatever the work. And whatever the budget is,
wherever
for those clients.
Keep that work coming. So, Lee, this is your first Western States as a business owner, a general contractor. And you were saying to me that it's a little bit different coming from that direction.
It is. I feel like it's completely different. I haven't been to Western States in a couple of years, but it's the best show that I've been to in a long time. I think I heard something around over 3,000 people are here, which is amazing to see. And it is definitely looking at different things as a business owner than an employee of a company. And you're walking around the show floor more in like a strategic manner.
Yeah.
Sure. It's been super fun.
It is. It's really good. And Trent, you've been busy. I mean, you go to everything. While you're here, you have all the meetings, you have your booth, you're speaking, history of roofing. Tell us a little bit about your show experience so far.
It's been great. I mean, like everyone said, it's been packed.
Yeah.
And, really surprised at the turnout. It's exceeded my expectations. Great turnout at all the seminars, and everybody's real upbeat. That's the key thing. It's a very positive environment. So having a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's and it's been really interesting because as you talk to everybody around the show floor, they are all seeing the same things, that there's just a lot of opportunity, and they want to know all the new technologies, all the new solutions, what's going on, how to reduce labor. So what are just some of the key topics and trends that you're seeing right now, Tim, as people are coming to your booth and talking about, and what are some of those?
Well, a lot of the newer technology that contractors are talking about is some of the estimating software that is out there. I noticed that in the show that this year that there's a lot more software than there's been before. We have an emerging leaders group, and so those young contractors come out and talk about all of the electronic apps and everything that is available that is so much different than what we've seen in the industry before.
Yeah.
It's exciting to talk to people bringing sort of fresh new ideas to the market.
Everything. You know, we just had a podcast with Duralast and Estimating Edge talking about how Duralast is using this new technology. You're working with your contractors through the estimating programs. That's pretty exciting.
Yep, it is exciting.
Yeah, that is really cool. Will, what are some of the things like hot trends that you're seeing here in Western states overall?
Training.
Training, yes.
Everybody wants to get their workforce up another notch. They want them to do better work, be more efficient, and they want folks to be happier, to have a better career because they've trained. And so, you know, being a part of the RCMA, the Roof Coating Manufacturers Association, our training program is another key step to provide roofers an opportunity to get their workforce up another notch, and we're just glad to be a part of that. I think that's really important, so we're just glad to promote that here. Yeah, we just talked about that just a little bit ago. We got a little promotion going on over here for free training module, which, hey, you should put your card in.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yes, we're going to put your card into the drawing. Yes. So you need the roof coatings training. I'm not saying you need it, but yes, you probably do.
Everybody needs training.
Yes,
everybody needs training.
So walking around the show floor, what's hot? What is like on front of your mind as a contractor out of Denver, Colorado?
Yeah, so for me as a contractor, my thought process is how can I be more efficient in what I'm doing? And within those efficiencies are both of what you said is the training, the product knowledge, and technology is huge right now for us and helping us be more efficient in the field. So that's my thought process is how can I streamline my workflow and be able to have better output with technology and training.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Trent, what are you seeing here that people should be aware of or be thinking of?
You know, it's interesting. When I'm talking to contractors, I think they're looking to just be better all the way around, whether it's operations, risk mitigation, whatever it is. I think people are concerned about some of the things that they're seeing, and they want to make sure that they're doing things the right way. So a lot of what I think the contractors are here for, not just to learn in the seminars and everything else, but is to make contacts, because it's a lot of those contacts that can help you later in your career. And I would be remiss if I didn't say I'm incredibly proud and honored to sit next to Lee. Just fantastic what he's doing. You know, just couldn't be prouder. So
I know.
Just fantastic.
There's a lot of proudness
very
going
big on my journey on how I got here. So
I love women-owned business. Yeah.
Yay.
So Trent, we want to say thank you very much for sitting in. There's a lot of board meetings and events going on. So one of our speakers, Wendy Marvin, who I'm so excited is going to step in here for just now, is going to take your place.
Fantastic. So, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Trent. Hey, safe travels and good luck with the Florida storms.
Yes, be safe.
Yeah.
Stay dry.
Hello, Wendy.
Well, hello there.
So, everyone, this is Wendy Marvin, and she is here. So, we're going to start with you. We wanted to give you a little chance to take a breath.
Stop sweating.
So, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and your company.
Okay, I am Wendy Marvin. I am the owner of Matrix Roofing and Home Solutions. 16 years in business, primarily residential, some commercial.
Yeah.
Love the industry.
Vancouver, Washington.
Vancouver, Washington, yeah.
Yes.
Not BC, I'm not a Canadian.
No, he's right by Oregon. Yep. So, okay, we've been talking about the show, how great a show it is. What have you seen out on the show floor that you're kind of like, wow, ooh, I need to get more information on this?
I'm seeing a lot of technology that I'm super excited about, because I don't know if you guys have already covered it, because that's a hard thing, but I think that we're an industry of safe, right? We do what we've done for a long time kind of thing, and I'm seeing a lot of innovation and technology out there that was kind of not necessarily from like the computer standpoint, but like from installation standpoints, like new types of trash chutes and new types of distribution kind of things, and it's exciting.
Robotics.
Yeah.
Someday we're going to be coming to the show, and robots are going to be going up and down the aisles, probably putting,
as you say that, the ladder just
I know the ladder just
went up and down. So okay,
exactly.
Let's move on to kind of what's happening overall in the industry, Western States specific, but industry overall. So Tim, I'm going to start with you again. Material shortage. Holy cow! As manufacturers, you guys have been, so it's really nice. Manufacturers, contractors, we're going to get both sides here.
Fun.
So where do you see? Where are we right now with material shortages?
Well, I can speak for our company. We also have a lot of vendor partners, so I know that some of our vendor partners have been had some supply chain interruptions, with chemicals and shipping and so forth. So that affects everybody.
Right.
Us as a company, we're very vertically integrated, so we, for the most part, make almost everything for our own roofing system. So we weren't as heavily affected as some other companies were. But from a supply chain standpoint, you know what, we're having to partner more with our vendor partners. We meet more frequently with them, so that we open up the communication. We feel as though communication is the key to make certain that customer service and the customers get what they need when they need it, but we just have to open up more communication.
Right. And the contractors, this has really built relationships over the last 2 years. Built and sometimes destroyed some, but you guys have seen yours really build across the board.
Yes.
Yeah, that's important. Will, what are you seeing on the coating side with material shortages and supply chain?
We've seen really the supply balance catching up to demand, and so we see more normalization of the marketplace, and we see that the trend is really that it's going to kind of be in balance going forward, and I think that's good. Hopefully we don't have any other hurricanes or political upsets or another COVID that have caused disruptions. But it's amazing that the roofing industry has survived so much of these things that have tried to shut us down or prevent us from getting roofs, as Charles would say, get the roofs dry. And so we see that, really globally supply is catching up, and I think that will keep the roofing business more competitive, and I think that will encourage more work and be more sustainable for our industry.
We had McKay Daniels and Kyle Thomas on Coffee Conversations a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about the same thing. And it's also, they've seen real shifts in kind of contractors had to figure out what to do and how to do it, who to rely on. So with that in mind, Lee, I know you just started your new business, but you're dealing with the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Ordering, what are you seeing?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I found, during the pandemic, I found that a lot of contractors were helping each other out. If there were materials that one person didn't have and another contractor did, there was this barter system kind of going on, which was super cool. I don't know if we've ever seen that. I haven't been in the industry as long as you both have, but I found it very fascinating, and it was people coming together who are normally competitors trying to figure out a way to make it work for all of us. And right now, what I'm seeing is the lead times on materials are not as long as they used to be, but things are not on the shelves. So I'm having to special order lumber. It may not take, it may take 7 to 10 days to get, which I think is a fine lead time, but I'm seeing that things may not be stocked in certain places like Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. And I also do exterior renovations, not just roofing, but windows are kind of
windows are a killer
outlier.
Windows are a killer.
That lead time for the windows is still pretty far, but other than that, I'm seeing things catching up, just like you said, and they're looking a lot better as far as residential for sure.
Wendy, what are you seeing?
A lot of what Lee just said, I think materials are doing a lot better. I still think our color choices are kind of limited, but I think that's just distribution talking about runs as we start to catch up. Wood is definitely, it's interesting to go to even the grocery stores, right? That we're not doing 15 deep, we're doing 5 deep. So if there happens to be a demand for something, then, like 2x4x6s are out of stock kind of thing. And things are coming in fairly quickly. I think for me, the main source for me, like with Tim and these guys, is just talking about communication. And, when I'm customer facing, I can set expectations of it being 2 weeks or 2 months.
Yeah.
And as long as I know, and we've had a great partnership with our distribution group and helping us just stay ahead of what's going on. We're doing some really specialty things like shake installations, and they're like crazy to try to get a hold of, and delivery is crazy, and we've had some really great conversations to being able to be ahead of it, because you can't go to your customer after the fact. You really have to be able to be informed, and it doesn't nick away at the trust then, because when you surprise customers, you lose trust.
It's not good.
And I feel like just more than anything, what I'm seeing is like what Lee said, and it not just between contractors, but between distribution, manufacturing. We're just a really good family industry where we kind of try to take care of each other. It's really,
that's what I think too has come out of this across the board. That I love that there's been more help and support of each other than not.
Yes. Agreed.
Agreed. Heidi, what I'm seeing right now, and this is really in the last couple of weeks, is that lead times are starting to come down now. So there looks to be some more normalization that's starting to happen in our industry, which is going to help everybody out.
Right. That's really good. And one of the things, and this is just kind of a side note, but I found it really interesting, is that things that somebody, when we were just doing a home remodel, and they said, well, you got to go buy your appliances. It's going to take 6 to 12 months or thing, and we had them in 6 weeks. And I was like, we're not ready for them. And it was, and so it seems like there's also a lot of, you just don't know what that container is coming in is going to have, and
flexibility and grace.
Yeah,
those are on my computer at home.
Those are wonderful words.
Flexibility and grace, because like you said, they said it's going to be a long time, and it came in early, but sometimes that's not good either.
I know. It just sits on your front porch for a while. So okay, and going back on that, let's talk. I mean, we just had unemployment numbers come out again, the lowest they've been since for a long time, and we have skilled labor shortage. We are seeing labor shortages. I would love to I'm going to start over here just to mix it up. Wendy, what you're kind of seeing with hiring people, the labor shortage, and kind of also we're going to kind of combine these on what are some of the unique things that are happening in to get young people in that you're working on in your area.
Labor shortages, it still exists, very much so. I usually run 18 to 20 roofers, and I have 10. And a lot of my immigration guys didn't make it across on their work visas still. We're hoping for next year, but that kind of started 2020, so that's painful when they're people that you've known for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing mixed things about that, like the H-2B visa numbers are going up, but I just think administratively it's hard to get all that stuff together. We're just looking for opportunities to be different. So doing a lot of work with the local trade schools, and getting on the list of people that, for the construction certification groups, and we're looking at ways to partner with like Workforce Southwest Washington. I'm not sure if that's national, but I've talked a little bit about that before, about how they're actually supplying grants for us to retrain out of other industries. And so it's not like the restaurant industry will partner much with us about taking their people. But, when people we just have stuff out there in the community that says, hey, if you're in the restaurant industry, you're not working, or the landscaping industry and you're not working, or, the guys that work outside are obviously easier to bring over because they're used to it.
And to get involved.
But we're just looking for more for personality, and then we'll train what they need to do, and then also definitely the younger generation and young women too. We're not leaving that off the table.
We saw that this morning.
Yep, that was awesome.
That was
awesome.
Cool.
So just alternative ways.
I think so. Lee, I've been really. I loved visiting with you this week and hearing how you're doing things. And in Colorado, it is a very strong subcontractor market.
Yes,
you've had kind of an opposite experience. And it's all built on because of such great relationships that you have built.
I have. I personally, in my company, don't really have a labor shortage because, I'm a one-woman show, and the relationships that I've built from being in the industry for so long, these subcontractors have contacted me wanting to work with me, and so it's super exciting that these crew members who I've known for 10 plus years are coming back in my life, and it's just amazing, and we've built this great relationship over the years. that has sustained, all of the pandemic. And Colorado's a funky market right now, definitely reliant more on retail than storm. And so I think that for me personally, the only maybe, labor shortage that I have is kind of with siding crews are a little bit difficult. But other than that, I'm actually having a great time, to be honest. I hate to say that out loud.
I love it. No,
it's very true. I do not have a labor shortage.
Well, and I wanted to ask you that because we've had other folks on the show before on Coffee Conversations who've kind of said the same thing, and it depends on where you're at, what your model is, but the importance of culture and relationships makes such a huge difference. So on the manufacturing side, when we were having all these material shortages, a lot of people were saying it's not actually, we're not having a problem getting the chemicals or the raw materials, I should say. We are having a problem because we don't have enough people to work in the plant to keep the plant going long enough. What are you seeing on that down in your area?
Well, when you have circumstances where, you have challenges in supply, you start looking at how to get more efficient, and you look at, automation. You also look at people's jobs and seeing maybe we have overlaps that we can balance things out better. Typically in the coating side of the business or in the spray foam side of the business, it's a liquid transfer, so we get things in bulk. We manufacture products, so it's very low labor in its requirement. So typically we've just done some things on the automation side, and then our products, roof coatings and spray foam, are generally very efficient. They're 3-man crews, things like that in most installations, and so not as much of a requirement for as many folks on a roof. So it's quite efficient, and everybody has struggles, but I think our industry kind of was more successful in it.
It sounds like, and your contractors, because they have less labor. But now that, I'm just going to touch on it again, going back to the training. That's why it's so important. It
is, and just having low, everybody having a job doesn't mean they all want to be in the roofing business. So we have to encourage them, we have to educate them, we have to entice them, we have to show them that there's a career path, and that's the challenge for us in the whole industry, is how to keep saying this is a wonderful trade and it's a career for you, and getting people to consider that, and that's the challenge for all of us.
Heidi, that's a big one too, just talking about a career path, because like in my industry, on my side of it, we have roofers, and roofers think they're just roofers, but it is an incredibly hard job on your body.
Right.
And so, trying to give people an idea of what the next step would be after they can't roof anymore.
Right.
Or if they're injured, and we allow them to become foreman, and then they can move into estimator, they can do other things, or we can connect them with one of you guys on the other side and say, you can go there. So just so they know that there's more than just a roofing path.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
That path. And there's been a lot of work. The associations are working on that. All of them. The board of Western States, the NRCA.
Yeah.
You have one of the largest contractor networks, Duralast, across the country. What are you hearing from your contractors and also in your plants?
I'm seeing a lot of creative thinking and ingenuity, because you're having to think outside the box now. Where do I get my employees? What I see both contractors and manufacturers doing as well is they've really ramped up the appreciation for the employees they have. So they are doing many more things for them, luncheons and different monthly giveaways and so forth, little extra vacations. So there's more appreciation for the employees that they have. I'm also seeing that they're using that technology thing again to look at, all right, so how do we get done more work with less people? So they're looking at systems, assemblies, equipment, machinery, and how do they get more productivity out of the employees that they have, and get more done and still satisfy their customers.
And ideally someday making it even easier to do with all the technology that we see coming down from RT3 and the different areas.
I feel like, can I interject?
Yes, please. I love it.
I feel like the pandemic really brought to light, I think Wendy touched on it earlier, how the roofing industry had kind of a lack of technology, and having the pandemic has pushed us into this new technology era of what can we do. And I think that And you said in Washington you were not essential. In Colorado we were essential. Thank God, you know. And it's just brought to light that technology and how can we embrace it to raise up the industry as a whole in our country. And I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
we needed
it.
Absolutely, do more with less.
Do more with less.
Yeah,
and then, you know what, we've talked about it in RT3 a lot too. I think there's a fear out there at times of technology kind of taking over the humanity, and it's real. And I'm not going to say that it's not valid, but I think what we're seeing is that we're embracing technology, but we're finding other places for the people too.
Yes.
So I don't think it's ever going to be that there aren't people involved. You know.
Well, if we keep hearing McKay Daniels spoke this at the Legislatives Luncheon, and he was just very clear on that we aren't even close to the bottom of the problem with labor, and it's only going to get worse over the next couple of years. And so what has always happened in our American and overall in the world is that when there's a problem, ingenuity comes in and they create technologies to supplement that. So I think we're going to see those robots going up and down the aisles.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if you look at other industries, you know, go back to someone like Henry Ford, you know, they had production lines, they had efficiencies, and, you know, now if you go into an Amazon facility or you go into things, there's not a lot of workers in those places. So they can pay them more, they're higher trained, they have more skills. And the roofing industry, you know, frankly needs to keep improving. Other sectors have probably done a better job of automating, you know, and finding a way of getting that task done in a simpler manner with less labor, and we need to keep doing that to be more efficient. And, you know, and then it gets them to reinvest more into buildings. When, you know, price of a building gets more expensive because it's a high labor component, they're going to do less of those things. If it's more efficient, they'll do more of those, and that's prosperous for all of us.
I'm thinking an Roomba on the roof with coatings, you know? It could just go right across like that.
I think there'll be lots of automation in the future. You know, your Tesla will drive you there. You know?
I know. We had Circle Bar cocktails the other night talking about how to keep the tear-off robot on a pitch.
Yeah.
Okay, how pitch would it have to be pitched before it would pitch off the road?
Exactly.
How much wood could wood chuck? Is that kind of thing?
Well, and when I think about technologies on the roof, I want to just kind of keep on this because it's so good. Because I've seen what Duralast has done over the years and how much technology you've had, and you've continually lowered the number of crew required on the roof due to technologies and your prefabrication and all the things that you do.
You guys are an industry leader.
Absolutely.
We're also making some automated equipment as well, so that what's sort of out of the box is that we hire college students, and then we have a program. Let's say we got a piece of equipment we want to build. They use that as their thesis. So they develop and design the equipment, and many of those people we have hired.
That's awesome.
So now we have our own machine design build people that.
That's awesome.
And I love taking people through our plants because we've got touch tone technology and programmable software and things that run and operate our equipment that were made by our employees. It wasn't a machine we went and bought. It was made by that design build team.
And that amazing pride that comes from being that part of your company that did it, right? Yeah.
You know, there's a plant in Roseburg.
Yeah.
I've been telling Tim that I was going to come down for a tour. We're coming down to see it. So that is cool. Okay, I'm going to switch the topic just a little bit because I'm probably a little bit Pollyannish on this comment, but you know, there's Pollyannish. Does anybody know who Pollyanna? Sorry. Okay, old movie. Always optimistic. But I listen to the news every morning going in, and I get totally depressed.
You should stop doing that.
Right.
That's
then
a terrible idea, right?
Then I get on the phone and I talk to all of you and all the people in the industry, and I get really excited and very optimistic. So I would like to hear, you know, when we got a lot. We realize there are economic problems. Can't discount that. But overall, what are we seeing in the roofing industry around demand, and also kind of the inflation rates? Interest rates are going. I should say inflation, and then interest rates going up. How's that affecting? I'm gonna start with you, Wendy. How's that affecting your customers and your business?
You know, everybody needs a roof. and you just can't argue with that. And I think our industry is not going to go. I opened my business in 2007. There's the hole right in the depth of the pandemic, and I think that the thing it does, though, is it challenges you to be a better company, and it challenges you to do some more work on understanding what your customers want, and to be that person, and to morph your business into that. I think that some of the things that are no-brainers that you have to have right now is you're going to have to offer financing on the residential side. You're not going to get away from that. Is it going to be a higher interest rate? Yeah, but if people need a roof, they need a roof.
Right.
We're seeing an uptick in the insurance industry again, and we saw this a little bit in, I think it was about 14 or 15, where the insurance for your homeowner's insurance has the ability to audit your house every year, and they kind of don't, but they're starting to now. And so, we're getting calls from frantic senior citizens typically, and maybe older females that have had their husband pass, where they're a homeowner and they just haven't really cared for the home for a little while, and they have 90 days to re-roof their house.
Wow.
And we're going to battle with them, with the insurance people, and just saying, look, okay, first of all, 90 days is laughable. Like, we have to be reasonable about this. But it's going to continue to be a need. I think that we just have to be better companies and customer service oriented for people to choose you. And then the other thing that we see, is when times are flush and there's a lot of business, everybody and their brother becomes a company owner. And then there's a lot of people that don't run good companies, and they go out of business, and then they come and become workers, and it's a cycle. And it's really funny, having been in business for 16 years, when you start to see those cycles come again, and you think, we can panic, and you can, there's a lot to be scared about, but it's a good time to prepare and just be ready and take care of the people you have, and know that our demand isn't going to go away. It might morph a little bit in terms of how it needs to happen. Maybe you need an automated way for people to sign contracts. Maybe you need to look at what each generational group needs, because we've got a lot of, not millennials, but Gen X's that are becoming homeowners. And I go out and do bids sometimes. I talk to the kids on the phone. Kids, oh my God. I talk to the homeowners on the phone, but they're young, and they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to meet with me. We go out and do the estimate. We send it to them. They sign. They want to e-sign. They come in. We do the roof. Sometimes we never even meet them. Never even meet them.
But you're meeting the customer where they want to be met.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's the key, is just don't be stuck in your ways. Listen to what they're telling you, and make adjustments.
We just had on our economic outlook, we had Misha Fisher talk about the homes. There's just a lot of equity rich people when it comes to their homes. A lot of equity there. Lee, you do the whole home. You're doing everything in there. So what are you seeing around that? Are people using their equity in their home? Are they needing financing?
I have. Great question. I actually have. I think that with financing, I think is definitely a big movement in our industry that's coming down the pipe for sure. Just with specifically in Colorado, we haven't had a good storm in 3 years, and so everything is switching from insurance to retail now, and the old saying that in Colorado is, we're just going to wait for the next storm. Well, that may not happen because our weather's changing,
But coming to my house.
So financing is a lot bigger. But, with that being said, everybody understands that interest rates are rising. Everybody understands that. I think in my company specifically, I have a competitive advantage with a lower overhead where I can kind of offer those competitive prices and still offer the financing as well. I haven't seen it from my perspective as a big issue, but what Wendy was talking about with the adapting to your clients, for sure. I'm all automated, which I think gives me the ability to do more as a single business owner, and so people do sign electronically and they meet with you less. And I'm an elder millennial. I'm a millennial, but I am an elder millennial, right on that cusp. Millennial. But you do have to meet them where they're at, and sometimes you sign a contract, in person, and sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you snail mail something.
And I feel like we're moving. everybody likes Amazon, right? It's 2-day shipping, and everyone loves that. It's all online. It's less. People are less personable now than they used to be. And so I'm wondering where our industry is going to be going with possibly purchasing things online and not even, meeting with anybody.
Everything,
It's interesting.
I love it. I love it. So we're live at Western States, and sometimes we get hello, Charles Santis. We're live.
Oh, is there a television show going on?
One of our favorite humans on the planet.
I promised Will I was going to crash the set.
I knew he'd come. He never let me down.
You disruptor, you.
You're the best. Okay, right. We needed that right in the middle of the economic talk. Okay, so
uplifting.
Yeah, well,
I think we need Charles to be the president of the United States.
That's it, right there.
Speaking of economy.
So speaking of economy, no. So what are you seeing on the commercial side of things, and what are your feelings on 2023 in the economy?
Well, first of all, there's always going to be some level of demand. It may come off from the peak levels that are there, but the hope is that the things that the government is doing will allow innovation and companies to be successful rather than try and reduce demand. And that's my big picture concern is that supply has been catching up, and the whole actions by the government has been related to interest and inflation. And so if the marketplace finds its normal, then it isn't really as necessary to reduce demand, and people can go on, and we can continue to see the economy, grow at a real good rate. And the government is one of those people that can flip a switch, and we can have 2 years of more challenge. But from a roofing perspective, it is important. Weather is important. If it rains, people suddenly recognize they need to get it fixed.
Yeah.
If you're a large company and you manage your assets, you're not going to let your asset, come out of line. You're going to keep it and maintain it. So I think some of those premises are going to continue. But the real factor that I see is just will the economy, continue to have legs despite the government trying to kind of reduce it. And I think the American has continued to show that they don't really want it to go down. They want to see growth happening.
Right. They want well, if you count all the cranes in all the major cities that we're seeing right now,
oh my gosh,
on the
Las
commercial,
Vegas, there's like 3 of them. Up there, and they're just going crazy.
Denver's full of them.
I know.
To Will's point too, is just talking about like my industry and my world is resi, right? I'm residential, and I deal with homeowners and I talk about the adaptability. When you're putting on the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, your adaptability is a little less. But what I love about our industry is, from me to him and all the way in between, is this incredible group of people from Western States to National Roofing Contractors Association memberships. That's something I didn't mention, but I think everybody across the board needs to be, because those people are working tirelessly to keep the legislatures from from shutting things down, to let them know what the impact is, to let them know about infrastructure, and we've got such a great industry that does that.
And it's going the right direction. What are you seeing commercially across the country?
Well, you mentioned that we've got a large contractor network. I talk with a lot of contractors, including here at this show, and I can say this, that I don't talk to anybody that is gloom and doom right now. I really do not. Everybody has work. They've got a big backlog. It's going to flow into next year. There's going to be some pent-up demand. And so I see people still being optimistic. And I think that we create our own future, and that eventually contractors might have to learn how to sell again, because there's been a lot of work out there, and there's quite a few opportunities. But I see an optimistic future. I really do.
That's good, because that's what I see too. And I say we just don't listen to the news
anymore.
Keep
rolling.
Okay,
don't do that in the morning.
And I think it also comes down to the company themselves. There's always going to be a market for successful people to be successful, and so well-positioned companies that are doing well will prosper despite even difficult times. They just know how to do it better.
To be what's needed.
I mean, I started my business during the pandemic. It's instead of closing down, which I've heard a lot of people doing, I started it, and I'm very optimistic about what that future looks like. I'm not afraid at all.
So you started during the Great Recession. You started during the pandemic. We started 20 years ago. You guys are a little bit longer. How old is General Coatings and Everroof?
Well, I've been in some part of the construction trade since '87, so that's a little while.
Exactly.
We had some pretty good interest rates back then.
Yeah, we've been up and down. And that's the thing. The business cycle is always going to go up and down. You know, you talked about 2008, 2009. I mean, that was a rough time related to interest rates, and again, same sort of thing related to housing, the bubble, and we really don't have that. We just really have a sort of an economy due to a lot of factors that kind of got overheated. Yeah. So I'm like, well, don't take your foot off the gas. Just get supply back up, and everything will balance, and we can keep rolling.
Supply and demand, it seems to take care of itself.
It does.
After a while.
It does.
Eventually. Well, let's kind of, you've already hit on it a little bit, Will, so I'm going to start with you, and I know you've been incredibly involved with NRCA and Roofing Day, but legislatively, we had the legislative luncheon yesterday with Craig Brydup and with McKay Daniels, and there's a lot going on that way too. I mean, there's going to be a lot of opportunity with the infrastructure bill and money coming into the system overall for construction finally.
Absolutely, and the Defense Production Act is out there. They want to invest back into keeping the economy going, and so there's a lot of money in it. And I think the important thing is roofers got to figure out as an industry how we get a hold of it, because the solar industry is very interested in getting almost all of it. Some of the other industries are there, and the government. And so when the goals of the Biden administration are climate change and making efficient buildings, we got to remind them that an efficient building with a good roof is a good solution. And when we put on more insulation, or we build the building tighter, or we make it so it's more reflective, all those things save energy, and they balance then with something like power generation and solar to find a net zero operating thing, which is what everybody wants.
Again, balance.
You're right.
So I think we always have things where they want to change industries with regard to we make products, and they always have a lifespan, and then they want us to make a better product, a greener product, a more efficient product, and that's what the responsibility of suppliers are, to keep doing that. But at the end of the day, climate change is a big importance, and we need to embrace it and show how roofing can really help solve those problems for what we do.
Yeah, because roofing is on the forefront more than ever of the environmental and helping with climate change. I know.
Absolutely.
What are you seeing, Tim, with legislatively across the board, some of the regulations, all of those?
We have already seen some positive effects from some of the legislation already, particularly in our, we do quite a bit of DOD work, Department of Defense work, and they've had some legislation that has put more money in the coffers of DOD, and which has resulted in more roofs being awarded, and so our contractors have been benefactors of some of those programs.
Yeah, and there's the obviously with what's going on with the infrastructure bill. I mean, that takes a long time to come through. We're seeing that. We're also starting to see some of the solar. I've heard a lot of people talking about solar, and we saw that yesterday with there too. And white roofs are a great place for solar roofs.
Yeah,
they are. We can't just take open land and put a solar array out there. We need to do things smart, and that marriage of a solar array on a roof is really a smart thing, and it's all about sealing the penetrations and making it secure, and having a good roof below it that's going to last the same length that people are promising out of the solar, and that's an efficient solution.
Yeah, no solar at the expense of watertight.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
No brainer, but it's hard sometimes.
Yeah. Wendy, what are you seeing? I know you were at the summer meetings with NRCA. You're on the board of Western States. There's a lot going on, and you have your own state of Washington that has its challenges.
We are interesting. I just feel so thankful that there's people. Politics is like, it's like you watching the news in the morning for me. I get all wound up, and it takes time, it takes patience, it takes. I really like, to your point, talking about some of the things that we were mentioning about the legislation stuff is, we're doing some weird things behind the scenes working with colleges to get collegiate people to consider construction and to start to talk about it. And then to Tim's point, talking about those people are actually studying roofing and coming up with solutions. And we were at Texas A&M, and he was talking about, some of his students talking about creating different types of polymers and different things. And I'm just thinking that we are so diverse in where we're touching right now, and we're not just staying on the same path, that legislatively we're getting a lot more attention. And I think that all of that kind of plays together. I don't want to speak to legislature because it makes me ill, honestly. But I love going to the meetings, and I love feeling like we have this just incredible group behind our industry that's looking out for us on all fronts.
Yeah. And Lee, I know you just started your business and you're doing your thing. Okay. So I'm going to say I would really hope that possibly you might be able to make Roofing Day.
That's right.
In the spring. And because and represent Colorado, we'll have to, because we go every year to Roofing Day, and I think it's a really important thing for the industry to just be involved, but it takes time to find the right people and to get involved that direction.
Absolutely, it does. I've heard so many great things about it, and I know in Colorado, to kind of speak a little bit about the solar, Colorado is huge with solar right now because we have over 300 days of sun, and so people are starting to use solar shingles instead of solar panels. And we had this green roof initiative a couple years ago that was trying to get passed, and so it's really interesting how the legislation can change. I know.
Can make or break it.
I know.
Change your roof.
I don't want to say make or break.
Bridge from Portland.
I know. Denver's not far behind Portland, but it's really interesting how that can definitely change how you're going to roof a structure and how to make it more efficient.
But they talk about solar in Colorado, and then they forget about snow. There's just, you got to have the whole package.
I know.
And you have just smart legislation. I mean, we all want things that have a sustainable outcome, and move away from things that are like one-time use. We want things that if it gets up on a roof, it stays up on a roof. It stays for the duration that it's promised to, and you have a satisfied customer.
And it makes sense what we're doing.
Absolutely.
That 10,000-foot legislation stuff comes down the pike, and we go, what? And then we fight back and give examples of why. So,
But I would also say that, when we talk about government legislation, there's quite a bit of money that's potentially available for us with regard to training across a lot of things. And our industry has to continue to unite to try and get that money, because it could go to other industries, or it could go to unions and not to non-union operations. If it's really necessary in the construction trade or in the roofing trade, we really need to get our fair share, and that's
which
that's
baby
what
bird
we need
is squawking the most is the one that gets the word.
Right?
That's the thing.
Well, with the Perkins Act, and that's what we've done at Roofing Day, right? We've gone there and we've talked to them about we need more CTE, we need more apprenticeships, we need to put money towards the young people who don't want to go to college but who want to get this great career in the trades.
But they see our faces, and that alone is such a huge thing. It's like Lee and I's face is very different than Tim and Will. It's to have all four of us
much better.
Are you sure?
We'll send you all. We'll send you twice to Roofing Day.
but they, to put a face to a roofer is a big deal, and that's part of why we're there. Is
I agree.
It's also a little bit of accountability. You're there for us, right? And here's our interest, and we appreciate if you give that consideration, because it's really important to our success, which is important to your community that you're representing. And so we got to remind them.
By the way, if you don't, we're going to be here again.
Exactly.
See you next year.
We'll be every year. It's starting to happen on a state level too. I know Montana is having a roofing day. There's some of the other states. I think Arizona does. Seattle, Washington is working on it. And so it's good, and it's what needs to happen. I do want to make sure that we cover, and you know what? I probably should have asked this question one back. So sorry, I'm going to bring y'all back a little bit, but. New construction. So one of the things I've heard about new construction, mostly residential, that due to interest rates it is slowing, but that there's still this pent-up demand for housing, and that multi-family housing is on the rise with permits coming up. What are you seeing that way around the new construction side of the world?
What I've been seeing on new construction, and again, we do mostly commercial, but even from the residential standpoint, I'm seeing a surge in modular manufacturing. So and we have a company that, when you talk technology, their entire plant is completely automated to the point where They're doing all the framing. They're doing all the electrical, cutting out windows and so forth. So
it's not boxable, is it?
It is, and they're literally they're able to build complete apartments, all furnished, put them on top of each other. So
and that was our roofing technology visit.
I'm seeing
so
more
cool.
of that kind of construction, and their industry is doing good.
Wow,
they're disruptors, changing the face of what it's going to look like to build a building.
Yeah, they did want a prefab roof. There you go, right there. What are you seeing? And not just I know you do both residential, obviously, and commercial. But what are you seeing on the new construction front?
So I think from our side with spray foam, when you put that on a roof, again we see that air tightness is very important, and the efficiency of a building, comes down to a combination of insulation and air tightness. And the more we build smarter, maybe build with less complexity, I think we're going to be able to become more efficient and maybe even automate. And it's going to be a fork in the road what'll come up, in the next 5 to 20 years as to whether or not, houses are going to be built on site or whether they're going to show up on site. And as contractors in that business, your labor component is doing most of those work on site, either new or retrofit, and you're going to have to be efficient to stay in that game, or someone's going to try and build the Amazon box and have it show up.
Are you thinking less customization of homes by chance, and more kind of like you said, like
that's kind of the boxable model?
The boxable
it's customizable
model is like,
to a point.
Yeah, I mean, if you just think about buying a car, if there are standard colors you get, but if you want something outside the standard colors, you're going to have to pay a bit more for it. Ways of saying we can do that, but it's going to have to give us a return and cost that way. So I think there's going to be a bit of that. People are going to say, hey, I just need some basic necessities, and this is what's important to me, and I'd rather be in a house than renting a house. So can you make it affordable so I can be in the house? And they're really going to be asking
so really
us to do
changing the way people think about new construction. A lot of them more new. That's really that's interesting.
I didn't know if I was allowed to ask a question.
You can ask any question you want.
I was curious.
Sorry, you have to leave now.
No.
We're going to replace you with Trent.
I do.
I'm never going to be passed back.
We need a lawyer.
Trent's gone.
Conversations again.
No, you always will. And I have to tell you, I would love to have other people ask questions, because I ask
You're
a lot
so
of
good at it,
questions.
though.
I know.
You're so good at it.
So, okay, but you have a lot. You're seeing, I know you're doing remodel and doing homes, but there is a lot of new construction still going on, right?
There's a lot in Colorado, for sure. I have a very, very good friend of mine is a project manager for a new construction company, and he is just so busy, working 100+ hours a week, because they are just pumping out these homes still. And it's so surprising to me because of the shortages and costs, and I don't know how much new construction costs nowadays, but
interest rates.
It's fascinating to me to see how much construction is actually going on in residential, especially in kind of Denver metro area.
Awesome. Well, there's just not enough houses for everybody. That's a big part of it.
Everybody likes Denver.
I agree with Lee, because all of us travel. There's sky cranes in every town. And they're all over. So there's still a lot of new construction that appears to be going on.
There is.
I also think we need to, work with government in a partnership to help them sort of get speed of foot. It's one thing to have that building in a year. It's another thing to have it done in 6 months. And the permitting process and the things to get the land developed and get it built, and then is really important. And I don't think there's the incentives to move fast on the government side as there is in the private sector. And a lot of moving forward is really held back, I think, by the government not really moving efficiently,
moving fast with the permits and codes.
Oh my gosh, we see that with inspections. Inspections and how long it takes for us to get that final inspection for roofing can sometimes be quite a long time.
Before the new con, I want to make a point, because I don't want to lose it, but I remember we were talking yesterday about and it was one of the bigger groups talking about having a roofer and an architect and a builder and everybody in one room. And it's like, it's a new thing for the roofer to think, that they have a right to be in that conversation, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I've been in a Newcon home, where we're going out for specs, and I'm looking at this going, are you kidding me? And for us going to Texas A&M and getting the construction science program to have a roofing component to it, I think that's all building momentum for what we're going to get at the end is going to be better, and we're going to have a voice to go, are you kidding? You're not terminating that 12-12 into a dead-end wall. I mean, that's such a basic thing, but it's like architecture did not have roofing included in their curriculum. It's basic, and I think that's a big deal. Newcon in our area, West Coast, we're usually kind of the last of the nation to kind of slow down. We're seeing a pretty significant slowdown, and not necessarily in builds, but starts.
Starts,
landowners and starts are starting to trickle, and we're seeing some slowing there. We are fast tracking. To your point about permits, our permitting area is fast tracking multifamily. Big time. Multifamily. You can get permits through in 30 days. The rest of us are like 6 months.
That's what we're seeing. That's what some of the trends are showing in the charts.
But to Will's point about permitting and all that, I literally was talking with our city organizations because I'm on a downtown association board, and I said, dude, like, what is going on with the building inspectors? And their comment was, we are in the 4th dip into the people we didn't hire because we're not getting applicants.
Wow. So they're having a labor shortage.
Talk about labor shortage,
right? And so some of these people that are working for the city and the county, and maybe having not been the best employer, they're not applying there anymore. They're going elsewhere. And I think that's the employment thing that's part due, is that they're going other places. And I mean, when you can make $16 to $18 at McDonald's, they're not going to screw around with a county that treats people poorly, or a city that treats people poorly, and even if they have great benefits anymore.
It is totally changing. Okay,
I would just say one thing to Tim's point is that innovation and technology is coming along where BIM and so forth is going to come along, where people are going to be able to design it and walk in with their glasses as an inspector and say, yeah, this is right, both either as a manufacturer or as an inspector. And that type of technology trend will help us so much, because I think there's a fear or resistance that they have to get this person up to speed before they can send him out to train.
Well, we'd like him to know code. I mean, on the basic level. I don't want to have to explain what a divert flashing is to the building inspector, but
And sometimes you probably scare them a little bit. I know. No, but it's true. And okay. Thank you all. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. We could just keep going. I am going to say one thing, and I don't even know if we have time, so I'm going to double check. Western States has done an amazing job. The association, the staff, all the people have just done. It's been a great show. So, Wendy, I'm going to let you give one quick pitch. Why should somebody be a member of Western States?
All what we're talking about. I mean, look at the 4 people sitting at this table. This is where I can call Will and say, Will, I was on the podcast with you with Heidi. I have this question. When things get tough and we start to have the weird stuff of a recession, which is going to come, you need somebody to call when that comes up in your business. Lee's new in business. When I was new in business, I had an insurance issue that almost closed me. I mean, things are going to come up that are you're not going to be able to solve by yourself. And if you don't understand the family that we have here now, association memberships are it. And Western States to me is one of the most intimate families that you can research. You can get safety, you can get legal, you can get business, there's so much available. Association memberships are just invaluable.
I love it. Okay, there you go. Tim's on the advisory board. I'm on the advisory board. You guys are all very active with Western States. We're doing so much. So thank you. Tim, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was fun.
And thank you, Everroof and General Coatings. Thank you so much.
We're glad to put this on and be a part of it.
Yes, Yay. It's so great. This Coffee Conversations, I tell you, great information. Please pass it on. It has been recorded, and it will be available on demand on Roofers Coffee Shop under the RLW navigation. It's on YouTube right now, and we will be back with our next Coffee Conversations in 2 weeks at MetalCon. We're doing it again. We just love being live and being on the road for the show. So
thank you for what you guys do, Heidi.
Thank you.
Honestly,
you guys, you make it happen. So thank you. We'll be back with some more interviews pretty soon. I'm pretty sure Karen Edwards is going to be taking my seat for a little while. So watch and you'll see some great new people coming on. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.